The next battle that I'll talk about here is really skills versus readiness. And this is something that has evolved massively in the L&D space. We find that technical skills, or what I might call tactical skills, are really kind of a dying breed. To the extent that we need them in an organization, they are often actually the easiest thing to train, and they are really inconsequential at the top of the organization. They become less and less important the higher you get. And actually, many of the organizations that we work with are using technical or tactical skill training as more of a recruiting tool than they are an internal upskill or development initiative. So if we are not focusing most of our strategic energy on these technical skills, what should we be focusing on? According to our data, you should be focusing on leadership, but that is definitely not easy, especially when we're talking about large populations of individuals who need to be developed and need to be developed in different ways. So how do we do that? Oh, and I would also be remiss in this conversation if I did not talk about dealing with competencies. At Hogan, the vast majority of our clients are talent management professionals in some aspect, and one of their biggest pain points is often competencies. When organizations start talking about leadership or often soft skills and how they want to improve their talent assets, the changes that they want to see in their talent population, they really can't help themselves from developing competencies. Sometimes organizations will call them values, but at the end of the day, we are usually talking about a set of competencies that reflects some combination of the makeup of their current population and their aspirational dreams of what they want their people to look like in the future. So that's a lot to unpack. And we have seen global organizations literally spend millions of dollars of time and resources developing competency models and then changing them over time. They often change them because the language becomes outdated or out of style or cliche, just because they have an internal leadership change, or because maybe the external environment changes and something else comes in style. But competencies in general have a pretty short shelf life. One example that I like to use is the really popular trend in the 80s and 90s of sensitivity training. This has been something that people have been developing around for a really long time. And then at some point in the 2000s, it kind of got rebranded to emotional intelligence or EQ training. And then recently, I've seen really the same types of content packaged as things like vulnerability training. So these are the types of sort of basic inter and intrapersonal skills that need to be developed in any organization with any population, but their packaging changes over time. So what we know about competencies is they're everywhere, but they will always change. So how do we deal with it? So this is my little stump speech or soapbox that I like to get on, and you're a captive audience, so I'm going to do it. But when we're training for leadership in an organization, the singular most important variable that we are training around and that we are developing strategic initiatives for is leadership. And we do not like the term hard skills or soft skills. Vital leadership skills as they relate to personality are not soft skills. I could use an example of a CEO's decision-making ability is not a soft skill. It is a function of personality, and it is a hard skill. A CFO or a controller's decision to follow regulations or not to follow regulations is not a soft skill. These are incredibly hard skills. They are highly intangible, and they are the most important thing that we can develop, and they are a function of personality. So here at Hogan, we like to talk about technical versus leadership skills. And obviously, the primary concern of this presentation today is leadership skills. And one more point here about dealing with competencies. When I say leadership skills, I'm talking about a broad spectrum of inter and intrapersonal skills, which make us successful at work. So one strategy that we found extremely successful in getting buy-in from the larger organization on developing leaders, and maybe from the individual contributor all the way to the C-level, is really to meet them where they are with their competencies. We work all the time to describe leadership and personality in a language that the organization is comfortable with. And that's actually why our research team maps the same personality characteristics to thousands of competencies every year. So we can really help organizations prepare leaders in a way that's culturally comfortable for them. So the overall message here about competencies is just accept it, don't fight it, and leverage them to your advantage in designing developmental initiatives because it gets you one step closer in getting buy-in from the organization.